Blue Apron is the #1 fresh ingredient and recipe delivery service in the country. I enjoy how easy the meals are to make and the variety to choose from, and of course, how amazing the meals taste. For less than $10 per person per meal, Blue Apron delivers seasonal recipes along with pre-portioned ingredients to make delicious home-cooked meals. You can choose from a variety of new recipes each week, like meatball pizza with fresh mozzarella cheese and charmed tomatoes, or let Blue Apron's culinary team surprise you. Recipes are not repeated within a year, so you're never going to get bored. Customize your recipes each week based on your preferences. Blue Apron has several delivery options, so you can choose what fits your needs, and there's no weekly commitment, so you only get deliveries when you want them. Each meal comes with a step-by-step, easy-to-follow recipe and pre-portioned ingredients and can be prepared in about 40 minutes or less. Blue Apron's freshness guarantee promises that every ingredient in your delivery arrives ready to cook, or they'll make it right. Check out this week's menu and get your first 3 meals free with free shipping by going to blueapron.com/Mike and Mike. You're going to love how good it feels and tastes to create incredible home-cooked meals with Blue Apron, so do not wait. That's blueapron.com/Mike and Mike. Blue Apron, it's a better way to cook.
Pennzoil Synthetics with Pure Plus technology makes this the time for performance. Winter is here, but with cold start protection and excellent performance in extreme temperatures, Pennzoil Synthetics keeps your engine purring, so you'll know winter is here isn't as ominous as it sounds. Visit Pennzoil.com and make the switch today.
Here we are. Good morning. We are back and better than ever. Mike and Mike, presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance line, a quarter of the way through the season, and one NFL unbeaten remains, barely. And don't let the score fool you. This one last night decided on 2 plays. First, a game-winning field goal, and then a spread-covering fumble return with no time left that provides one of the crazy backdoor covers of all time. We've got all that in the hopper today, and we have the big man, Booger McFarland, here to help us through all morning long. Hello, Booger.
What's going on, Green Man?
Well, what a ridiculous ending to that game last night. We were all just talking about it here with the crew. That fumble recovery on the flea flicker, right, one last desperation play, which has absolutely no chance to succeed and hasn't essentially since the band was on the field between Stanford and Cal, is the spread and the over in the game last night by half a point. That's one of the ridiculous bad beats that you will ever see in your life.
It's amazing. That's how you look at it. I look at it as a touchdown for Justin Houston. That's the way I look at it. As a defensive guy, I have a touchdown now. My name will be in the paper. You'll never be able to take that one away from me. And the common man says, you know what? I either won or lost a lot of money on that one.
Yeah, no, believe me. The only reason you say that is because you never bet on any of these games. For those of you who didn't see it, Harrison Butker, and that is actually his name, kicks what essentially is a game-winning field goal with 4 seconds left yesterday. And so Washington gets the ball down 3 on their own 25-yard line, and they throw that ridiculous little short pass, and they're lateraling it around. And the next thing you know, Justin Houston has it in his hands. And I've been there. I've been on both sides of this in my life. Again, I've said many times.
As far as the guy betting.
Yes, exactly.
You've never been in the game.
Oh, no, I've most certainly never been Justin Houston holding the ball.
Make sure you phrase that properly, because somebody listening is like, Greeny play ball?
Listen,
no.
I haven't even been Harrison Butker, okay? I most certainly haven't been Justin Houston. But I have been the guy watching that thing on either side of it with my face frozen either in abject horror or just unimaginable joy as this guy goes running into the end zone for what is, on one level, a completely meaningless touchdown. Like, to you, a completely meaningless touchdown, beyond the fact that the kid gets to score. He's not a kid, Justin Houston, that the guy gets to score a touchdown. But as far as the outcome of the game, it had already been decided.
Correct.
But again, that play is the spread. It's instead of 23-20, it goes to 29-20, and that is both the point spread and the over by half a point as the Chiefs remain unbeaten.
You got to love it. And here's the great thing about that play, Greeny. NFL teams only practice that play usually on Friday or Saturday, and usually it's in shorts. So that's a play that's practiced. I mean, it'll be kind of a fun play where guys mess around, offensive lineman gets to catch the football, but it's an actually scripted play.
Does it ever work in practice?
Yeah, if the defense allows it to.
I mean, that's what I'm saying.
But other than that, it never works.
Doesn't want that to
It
work.
never
It's
works.
never going to work.
No, because
right?
it's not choreographed. You have offensive linemen that essentially have to catch the football, and most offensive linemen have no hands. So it never works. But you have to do it to say, what if? What if it really works just one time?
I get it. You don't take a knee and say, okay, this game is over. I understand you try something.
Could,
I mean, it's tantamount to the same thing. But again, that is a ridiculous backdoor cover, bad beat, whatever the terminology of the day is. But I've been there. I've seen it. I remember there was a play I'll never forget where Jason Sehorn caught out an onside kick in the air and took it back for a meaningless touchdown that turned a point spread. We've seen a lot of those kind of crazy last plays.
Right.
Scott Van Pelt does a great job with those on his Sports Center at night. And so that one last night is a perfect example.
There was one with the UCLA-Stanford game when
Yes.
the UCLA quarterback dropped the football and the Stanford defensive lineman ran it in. That was one of the all-timers until last night.
So there you have it last night. That's obviously not the headline, except that it is in so many different ways. And, of course, we've gone through a stretch of time here where so many things have happened in our world that have been so sad, and the horrifying events in Las Vegas of the other night that we spent, and Booger, you referenced them here with us yesterday, and Mike and I talked about it a lot. And then there are the more commonplace sad news items with the death yesterday of Tom Petty, and we're going to play a ton of Tom Petty music on the show today. I loved that guy. I will tell you right now, you will be hard-pressed to find someone who had a more enjoyable catalog of big hit songs than Tom Petty. The kind of stuff that you're in the car and the song comes on, and I don't care who you are, where you are, what you're doing, what you're otherwise thinking about, you are singing along and you know every single word to the song.
Greeny, I grew up in Louisiana, and I'll be the first to admit I never knew who Tom Petty was. But growing up and starting to understand different genres of music, I'll never forget the first time I heard the song Free Fallin' Come On. And I was just mesmerized because I'm a beat guy.
Yeah.
Then I listened to the words. And when I heard the beat, then the words came in. Free Fallin' is one of my favorite songs of all time. And I would have loved to have heard him perform that live because to me, it's just an amazing song.
What year did he play the Super Bowl? He was really good at the Super Bowl. 2007, I'm being told. He was really good. If I remember correctly, that was the year that the Giants beat the unbeaten Patriots, right? Am I putting that together right? That was that Super Bowl? Yeah. He was phenomenal.
Yeah.
At the Super Bowl. Someone asked me before we came in here, did I ever see him in concert? And I didn't. That's the closest I ever came, was seeing him play halftime of the Super Bowl. But here's your song that you're talking about. And I don't mean to smile on what is a sad day. He is one of the great artists of recent memory. And the Traveling Wilburys, which was the super group that put together, which was Tom Petty and George Harrison and Roy Orbison and Bob Dylan, among others, was phenomenal. But right before we came on today, we were sitting and talking about Tom Petty, and Booger tried to sing Free Fallin', and let me tell you, it will ruin your day. At some point,
that's why I'm not going to do it. No,
I will give you some warning before we do it. It's one of those where, like, sometimes I'll say if you have kids in the car, you might want to listen to something else because we're going to get into something that might be disturbing or sexually explicit. We're going to have that with Booger later this morning. Booger's going to sing Free Fallin' for it's just 1 minute. Listen, you made me twerk on the air one time, and my kids still talk about it. So you're going to sing Free Fallin' at some point today if it's the last thing I do.
I'll give you a little tease.
But we will play Tom Petty music for you all morning long. Rest in peace, Tom, and thank you for the countless hours we have already spent and will continue to spend listening to all of your music. In the meantime, to the sports news of the day, and here we go. Baseball playoffs start tonight. We got the game for you on ESPN tonight. It's the Twins and the Yankees in the American League Wild Card game, 8 Eastern on ESPN, and every pitch of the postseason, of course, is here on ESPN Radio. We're going to get into this in a couple of minutes. Do you like... Because you and I have talked about a lot of sports, and for those of you who've not had a chance to hear a lot of Booger with me over the months, Booger is not just a football guy, but knows everything about everything. Do you like the one-game playoff format for the wild card in baseball? Because I have a love-hate relationship with it.
I don't like it at all, Greeny, because, let's just take a look at this situation. The Yankees are 6 games better than the Twins, so I think the Yankees should get rewarded for having a better regular season. I would steal David Ross's idea. He and I had a long conversation about this. If there is a team that has a better record than the other, allow that team to only have to win one game. So in other words, in this situation, if the Yankees win tonight, series is over. If the Twins win tonight, play again, have the Twins win twice because they have a worse record than the Yankees. I do not like the one-game playoff in the wild card.
Okay, that's insanity, but I have other ideas that we'll get
into. It's a good idea.
No, it's a good idea with the exception of its terribleness. But
it's not terrible.
We'll debate this a little bit later.
Wow. Are you kidding?
Off the top.
Elsewhere, the Raiders are going to be without Derek Carr a minimum of 2 weeks. The number I've seen attached to it is 2 to 6 weeks after he suffered a transverse process fracture in his back on Sunday. I'm not going to ask you to explain the fracture, but explain the impact on a Raider team that already is not off to the kind of start that a lot of us projected that they might be.
Well, first of all, this is not going to be season-ending. We've seen a couple people have this. I think Cam Newton and Tony Romo have had this. The Raiders have gotten some bad luck, and maybe for them, they can now just hold on and come back and reset. If you're Derek Carr, who hadn't gotten off to a good start, now, in my opinion, E.J. Manuel comes in. I hope he's better than the last time we saw him. He was terrible. They're going to have to lean on their offensive line, run the football a little bit more, be more physical. This is supposed to be one of the great offensive lines in football, along with the Cowboys. They haven't played that way so far. This will be an opportunity for them to take advantage of that.
Off the top.
Millions of fans of the Chicago Bears all across the country, including the one who lives in my house, can rejoice. Mitchell Trubisky will be the Bears starting quarterback when they return to the field, which will be next Monday night, actually, against Minnesota. Are they making the right decision here?
No, I don't think so, because if the young man was not ready, then why are you putting him in now just because of public sentiment, public pressure? I think the whole plan along was to play Mike Glennon. And to me, it bothers me when an organization has a plan and then because of what's going on in Houston, because of what other organizations do, because of public sentiment, you change your plan. If the plan was not to play Mitch Trubisky, then don't play him, because we've seen other quarterbacks play too soon and not be ready. Mike Glennon, you're paying him a lot of money. The Bears aren't going anywhere at all this year. Play Glennon, allow Trubisky to get a little bit more season. If you want to bring him in week 8 or week 9, that's fine. But right now, in my opinion, it's too soon.
Off the top.
And finally, the Chiefs beat Washington on Monday Night Football, and Kansas City remains the only unbeaten team in the NFL. We already described to you the crazy finish that was both the spread and the over on the last play of the game. Let's get into how the game itself was decided. That's Off the Top with Mike and Mike, presented by Progressive Insurance, with our compare rates for you, so you get the best deal even if it's not with Progressive, saving you time and money. Now that's Progressive. Call or click today. Booger McFarland, the Kansas City Chiefs are the only unbeaten team left in the NFL. Are they the best team in the NFL?
Well, right now you have to say that because of the multiplicity of ways they can beat you. They have a defensive front that can get after the quarterback. When you look at Ford, you look at Houston, what they can do. But more importantly, offensively, Andy Reid is the best play caller in professional football, not because of the plays that he comes up with, not because of when he calls them, but because he's morphing his offense to what he has. He has great young weapons. Tyreek Hill, prime example. He's not a running back. He's really not a great receiver. He's a weapon. So he figures out ways to get him the football. He understands that Alex Smith is never going to stand back there and throw it 50 times reading his progression. So he gets him on the move, uses his athleticism. And so when you couple all that together, last night they didn't play their best game, Greeny. Okay, Washington came out, and Washington clearly outplayed Kansas City early on, had them down 10-0. They didn't blink whatsoever. Kareem Hunt, to me, has been one of the bright young surprises so far this season. They can run the football. They have weapons on the outside. They have a defense, and right now they're playing better than anybody in the National Football League.
Well, I'm going to set up hashtag Too Far Tuesday coming up for you in a minute, although I suppose just by mentioning it, I've already done it. It's a Tuesday, which means we'll be taking your tweets all morning long using the hashtag Too Far Tuesday. Anything that you sort of our version of Overreaction Monday, but we do it on Tuesday just so we can say that it seemed original. But I picked the Chiefs to go to the Super Bowl this year, and they're starting to make me look better and better.
Which means they won't. If you pick them, they won't.
Yeah, I mean, my KOD generally will destroy people. And look, last year Denver and Minnesota both started 4-0, and neither one of them wound up in the playoffs. So this is a guarantee of nothing. But if you look at their division, which you could argue is the best division in football,
right?
The Broncos are they have a larger flaw, I believe, than the Chiefs do. The Chiefs are at times unspectacular offensively because of their quarterback. The Broncos are at times unspectacular offensively. You know how much I love Trevor Siemian, but you don't look at him, and we saw it in Buffalo as a guy. If you need him to throw the ball 45 times, right, you're probably not going to win that game. I think Denver's defense is better than Kansas City's defense. Mm-hmm. The Raiders now have lost their quarterback for, let's call it, a month if we're going to split the difference. So but you look around, Kansas City has banked a win on the road against New England. Mm-hmm. Look at how unspectacular a lot of what we think the other better teams are in the AFC. Houston, which is the best team to me in the South, is led by a rookie quarterback, albeit a spectacular one, but a rookie. Right now, Pittsburgh and Kansas City look like the two teams, and maybe Denver with that defense, and we'll see what Buffalo turns out to be. I'm feeling pretty good. My hashtag Too Far Tuesday is, I was right. Kansas City is going to wind up winning the AFC.
Well, I don't think that's too far. And when you compare the teams, Kansas City and Pittsburgh, I trust Kansas City's defense more than I trust Pittsburgh's defense. Now, the offense in Pittsburgh may be more explosive, but I think when you look at the totality of both teams, and I think the wild card, Greeny, that we're forgetting about is what's going on in New England.
Yeah.
They're playing really, really bad right now. They look like an average football team. They're losing to teams that we don't expect them to lose to. But I think in the end, we give Bill Belichick the benefit of the doubt, and Tom Brady, who's the greatest quarterback of all time. They'll figure out a way to get it done, figure out a way to get it fixed. But when you look at Kansas City, I think Kansas City has something, Greeny, that once the weather changes in Arrowhead Stadium, and it gets cold, and it gets windy, and it gets rainy, they can line up and run the football with this young man, Kareem Hunt. And they can run the football with their quarterback. The ways that they can beat you are multiple. And you have to have multiple ways that you can beat teams. When you look at New England, in my opinion, the only way New England can beat you is if Tom Brady has a tremendous day. He's got to throw for 350. Gronk has to go off. Like, there's only a certain number of ways that New England can beat you, especially with the way that defense is playing right now. I don't think it's too far, because when you have multiple ways that you can win football games, I like those teams better than the ones that can only win it singularly.
Kareem Hunt had 121 yards from scrimmage, so he's had 4 consecutive games to start his career with at least 100 yards from scrimmage. The record is 5, held by Adrian Peterson, so he's one shy of that. Hunt has been spectacular, and to further your point, let me give you a number on Hunt that really illustrates where the National Football League is right now. Here's where running the football makes a difference. In the second halves of these games, you can do a lot of different things. Booger, you played on the defensive side. Golick, of course, played on that defensive line for all those years as well. And in that second half, when the defense is getting worn down and getting tired, is when Kareem Hunt is warming up. Kareem Hunt has rushed for more yards in the second halves of games this season than any other running back has for the entirety of the year. I hope that stat is clear as I'm reading it to you. He's run for 372 yards in the second halves of games this year. No other running back in the league has 372 rushing yards. So Kansas City is wearing you down with that attack and giving it to this young kid with fresh legs in the second half, and it makes a difference. And you pointed it out as well. Alex Smith, people don't talk about him practically at all.
Yes. And
one of the things that he runs with the ball about as well as any quarterback in the league. Find me a quarterback who runs with it more effectively. He does both things. He stretches the play like some guys do, and he runs for first downs very, very effectively.
Greeny, to your point about teams running the ball in the second half, who does that remind you of? Let's go back in time a little bit. The Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
The Dallas Cowboys would throw the football early, and in the second half they would turn it over to the offensive line and Emmitt Smith, and they would grind you out. They would get a lead with the passing game, defense or whatever, and in the second half it was Emmitt Smith time. I would love to know Emmitt Smith's rushing yards in the second half, because they have to be up there. And his ability to run the football, coupled with Alex Smith is underrated. And oftentimes we become prisoner of our initial thought. And our initial thought was Alex Smith's a bust. He's a guy, he'll never be a starting quarterback in the National Football League. Greeny, he's one of the better starting quarterbacks now. We can call him a game manager. Essentially, every quarterback is a game manager. Okay, he's not a guy that's going to throw it 50 times, but what he is, he's a guy that can make plays at the quarterback position. He's not a one-trick pony. He can throw the football, he can get outside the pocket, and there are not a lot of quarterbacks, probably a handful in this league, that I'd rather have than Alex Smith. And I think if you're Andy Reid, yes, you drafted Patrick Mahomes for the future. But Alex Smith is showing you right now how he's playing, that the future may be put off a little while longer in Kansas City.
Here's what I'll say about Alex Smith, and this is going to sound like damning with faint praise, but it's really not. He, to me, is more than good enough. There are 3 levels of quarterbacks, if you want to make it this simple, in the National Football League. There are the guys who, just by having them on the field, your team is way better than it otherwise is and has a chance to win. And there are a very small handful of those guys. Aaron Rodgers and Brady and Belichick, Roethlisberger, who we can debate who they are,
right?
But there's a small number of those.
Only a small number.
And then there are the guys who are more than good enough. Two of them were on the field last night.
Yep.
Kirk Cousins, to me, is more than good enough. I don't know if he's great. He's not Aaron Rodgers. He's never going to be. But he's more than good enough. You can win a championship with that guy as your quarterback if the rest of your team is good. Mm-hmm. And then there's the other half of the league, which have guys who aren't good enough. So that is and they're desperately trying to find someone who's more than good enough. Everyone thinks they're looking for Aaron Rodgers. There's like two of them in the whole planet. You're just fine if you have someone who's more than good enough. To me, Alex Smith is more than good enough.
Greeny, I'll make it a lot more simple than that. To me, there's a line.
Yeah.
You're either above the line or you're below the line.
Fair enough.
If you're below the line, then I'm looking for somebody else because you can't help my team win in any form or any facet. If you're above the line, then you can do things to help my team win, whether they are ordinary or extraordinary. I'll keep it really simple. Alex Smith, he's above the line. Kirk Cousins, he's above the line. And I think when you look at a guy like Blake Bortles, he's below the line, just to give you a separation. So make a line. Your guy is either above the line or below the line. And we saw two quarterbacks last night that are above the line. How far? That's up to you to know that they are above the line, but they are above that line.
All right. So again, Kansas City with the win and the cover and the over on the crazy final play. We have sound bites coming from both sides. Let me give you a little Straight Talk here, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, best phones, best networks, no contracts. Little hidden number in last night's game where the game changes. When Josh Norman is on the field last night, Kansas City has a combined total of 0 points. They were throwing the ball for about 5 yards per attempt, and their quarterback, Alex Smith, was being pressured 44% of the time that he went back. Now, I know these are a lot of numbers, but it's as simple as this. With Josh Norman on the field last night, Washington's defense is entirely different because they were able to put him out there on an island. They're able to allow him to do his thing. They can bring other people. They can get after the quarterback. They can do a lot of other things defensively that Booger could explain better than I could. Norman goes out with ribs late in the second quarter of that game. By the way, he's going to be out a couple of weeks. From that point forward, all of the numbers change. The Chiefs scored 23 points offensively as opposed to the 0 they had with Norman on the field. They are pressured on only 20% of their dropbacks, about half the time. So you can explain better than I the difference that a guy like Josh Norman, which you don't look at a stat sheet and say, well, he had this many passes defensed and he had this many interceptions. The difference in that defensive look when he's on the field.
Well, what you can do when you have a shutdown corner, you can essentially take away the number one weapon on the outside. When you're playing the Kansas City Chiefs, they're trying to get the football to Kelsey. Okay, their tight end who wants to be like Gronk so bad it's not even funny. Like he wants to be Gronk Jr. every time you watch him with his mannerisms and all those things. But he's a very, very good tight end. So Norman can take away the outside, whether that's Hill or Harris, whoever that is on the outside. And now you can take your linebackers and your safeties who don't have to help Norman. Now they can focus and help on Kelsey because Kelsey's going to take over the middle of the field. He's going to roam the center. And when Alex Smith gets in trouble, he is going to look for Kelsey. Very similar to what the Cowboys and a lot of teams, Richard Sherman, when you have a number one guy, now you take the other 10 guys and you devote them to the other 9 offensive guys. And so it's basically a numbers game. And Josh Norman allows the Redskins to play the numbers game. Where Kansas City is different, their best receivers are tight end. So it forces you now to bring safeties and linebackers and play bracket coverage and things of that nature. That's where they're different. Their best receiver goes up the middle, and all their complementary guys are on the outside. So they're a little bit different to defend when you have a number one corner like Josh Norman.
So if all the numbers I gave you are complicated for you, and I get it, particularly if you're listening on the radio, it's hard to follow that many. Let it simply be this. When Josh Norman was on the field last night, Kansas City did not score. And he went out right before halftime, and the Chiefs scored 23 points the rest of the night. Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage in America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. We're just getting started. Booger is here. Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Coming up, the number that really should concern you if you're a Patriot fan. It has nothing to do with your defense. All the hashtag Too Far Tuesdays are just getting started. And we're going to really learn something about college sports with the way one school handles one situation.
Home isn't just a place, it's a feeling. Whether you're at home, your business, or online, ADT helps keep you safe. With security systems, home automation, alarms, and surveillance, so you can feel at home, wherever you are. Go to ADT.com to get that feeling. ADT. Home, safe home.
You're listening to Love Advice with Leanne. Caller, you're on the air.
Hi, Leanne. Longtime listener, first-time caller. Why, in your professional opinion, do you never take my calls off the air?
Is this Carl?
Yep, it's Carl. I mean, we had a few dates. Everything was great. I thought,
Well, when you switch to Geico, you could save a lot of money on car insurance.
Okay, awesome.
You should call them.
I will.
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
Mike and Mike will play nothing but Tom Petty music for you all morning long today. I'm just going to hit it randomly. I'm warning the people right now running the B-roll. So, I didn't give you any heads up on that one. I apologize, but I just felt like hearing it. Yesterday I'm walking through my house, and I every now and again, if you've been away from your phone for a little while, you'll check it and you'll see what's going on. And I started seeing stories saying there was no first name attached to it for some reason. Petty was rushed to a hospital.
Right.
And my first thought, in all honesty, was Richard Petty, the legendary race car driver who's an older man as well. I don't know exactly how old Richard Petty is, but that was the first thought that went through my mind. And, of course, that's a sports figure, so I started thinking to myself, okay, this is the way your mind is sort of conditioned to work when you work in this business as long as I have. Oh, if Richard Petty dies today, what are we going to need to do on the show tomorrow and all of that? And then all of a sudden, I started seeing pictures of Tom Petty fly by on my timeline, and I had to sit down. And I love that guy. I don't have any other words to describe it. I never met him, and this is what music can do for you that almost no other art form can do. I never met Tom Petty my entire life. I've never spoken to him. He was never on the show. I never interviewed him. And yet I genuinely feel like I loved that guy.
Greeny, I put music in the same category with sports. Sports often galvanize us. You don't see color. You don't see economic background. You don't see heritage. All you see is people. That's what music does also, because when you hear that song, it puts you in a mood. It puts you in a feeling. When you hear Tom Petty, Free Fallin', American Girl, like those are songs that just generally make you happy inside, make you smile, make you sit down and reflect. That's what music does, just like sports. I
don't know how this is broken up by age. Like if you're 20 years old, I don't know if that song resonates with you the way that it does with me.
Yeah.
But that's one of those songs. If I were to list the top 5 songs that might come on the radio, and at whatever point it is, like if you're just sort of flipping through stations and that pops on. That you will stop it. You will listen to the rest of it regardless of what else is going on, and you just start dancing along and you're moving along. And what can you say? Again, thank you, Tom, for all of the music and all of the joy that you brought us all these years. Coming up in a couple of minutes here, I will give you a statistic, if you are a fan of the Patriots or any football fan, that should concern you a lot more than anything involving their defense. But we'll start with our hashtag Too Far Tuesdays. And here we go. Ryan tweets us, hashtag Too Far Tuesday. Mitch Trubisky will win Rookie of the Year. Now, he's going to have a whole bunch of competition, right? Kareem Hunt has been spectacular. Deshaun Watson has been spectacular. Yeah. What do you think, Booger? Is that too far?
Yeah, it's way too far. I mean, even if he comes on and plays well, I don't think the Bears are going to the postseason. You can see a scenario where both Kareem Hunt in Kansas City and Deshaun Watson in Houston are in the postseason. They're going to play a viable role in their teams getting there. So that may be a bit too far. Like it's one thing to go too far. It's another thing to go crazy.
Yeah.
So, to me, that's a little crazy.
That's Crazy Tuesday. We do that. We only do that every third Tuesday. Matthew Kyle tweets, Too Far Tuesday. Kareem Hunt wins Offensive Rookie of the Year, NFL MVP, and Super Bowl MVP.
I like that one because if Kansas City is winning and Kansas City is playing for those things, he's going to be a very, very pivotal part in that. Rookie of the Year, he's got some competition with Deshaun Watson right now. I thought your pick before the season, Dalvin Cook, was good before he got hurt with the ACL.
What a shame for that kid.
Just a total shame. NFL MVP, it's not out of the question. I like that Too Far Tuesday.
He's got, again, he leads the National Football League in rushing at 502 yards. And as I told you earlier, his 372 yards rushing in the second halves of games alone would lead the NFL. Too Far Tuesday, Brian tweets, the Bills will win the AFC East and the Patriots will miss the playoffs.
Wow. I don't know if that's too far, Greeny. And here's the reason I'll say that. Because if you just look at what's going on right now in Buffalo, we talked about the personality of teams and what Sean McDermott has done up there in Buffalo and how they're playing right now. Tyrod Taylor, we talk about that line. He's above the line, Greeny. Okay, if you look at the quarterbacks in the National Football League, he's above the line. The defense is playing better. Shady has always been a very, very good running back. And more importantly, let's look at the Patriots. at some point, when does it end? We're not going to have a sign. It's just going to end, meaning the dominance of Belichick and the dominance of Brady. More importantly, us giving Matt Patricia and Bill Belichick the benefit of the doubt. Because it's been 4 weeks, and we continue to talk about the communication issues and the defense isn't playing well. Well, they got veteran players back there. They don't have rookies. It would be one thing if you got young guys and rookies back there. They got veteran guys and Butler and McCourty and Gilmore. These guys have played a lot of football. And if you can't communicate as an experienced player through the first 4 weeks, what's going to change in weeks 5, 6, 7, and 8? We just give them the benefit of the doubt like it's automatic. I don't know if it's automatic.
No, I look, the flip side of that, I understand what you're saying. The flip side of that is if you don't give him the benefit of the doubt, who are you giving it to?
We are.
It should almost be renamed the benefit of the doubt, which I almost accidentally said, and it actually kind of works.
Right.
Maybe we can, hashtag trademark that. If Bill Belichick doesn't get the benefit of the doubt through 4 games, it's one thing if we're in December.
Correct.
We're in the beginning of October. If he doesn't have the benefit of the doubt, then no one has ever deserved the benefit of the doubt. But with that in mind, let me set up then my next point, which was going to be, here's the number that should concern you if you're concerned about the Patriots. From whichever side. If you're a Bills fan and you're thinking, can we hold on?
Right.
If you're a Patriot fan and you're thinking, can we get this thing turned up? Yeah, your defense has been awful. You've given up 300 yards passing in every single game, and you've had communication issues that have led to receivers running free in every game. I get it. But here's maybe a bigger concern. Yes, Tom Brady is leading the league in passing yards. Yes, he's on record to throw for an NFL record 5,600 yards this year, practically. And yes, he hasn't been intercepted this year.
Mm-hmm.
However, and the first place I saw this was Michael David Smith wrote it on Pro Football Talk yesterday. He has been sacked 13 times in 4 games. He was sacked a total of 15 times all of last year. Now, bear in mind, that was only 12 games in the regular season because he was suspended the first 4. But even so, the number still stands up, and it is obvious. He is on pace to get sacked 52 times this year. He's never been sacked anywhere near that many times. The most ever in his career was 41, and that was the year that he replaced Bledsoe as, for all intents and purposes, a rookie quarterback. He wasn't actually a rookie, but you get the point. He's 40 years old. Mm-hmm. How many hits can a guy that age, no matter how healthy his living is, we can joke about it or not, you know, the lifestyle.
Right.
But whatever it is, 40 years old is 40 years old. How much of a beating can he continue to take before it becomes a real problem?
It will eventually take its toll. I don't care how much avocado ice cream he eats. I don't care how much of the Tom Brady sleepwear that he wears and the footies and pajamas and stretching. At some point, the physical body is made up of bone, ligaments, tissue. All of that stuff either breaks or tears or gets hurt. It's a concern, Greeny, and I think the offensive line is not protecting well. More importantly, Tom Brady's used to getting the ball out quick. Who does he throw the football to quickly? Edelman. Edelman is not there.
Right.
So he's having to hold the football just a little bit longer to find some of the other guys. He's still getting in tune with Brandon Cooks. Gronkowski's not a fast guy. You have to give him time to get down the field. So their offense is going to look a little different. They're never going to run the football up and down the field, which is why my concern is this. If your defense is not playing well and you're a one-trick pony on offense, okay, that's a recipe. I'm not going to say for disaster, but it's a recipe that you can see how the Patriots get beat, and they've gotten beat by teams that they really shouldn't be losing to. There's no reason that Carolina should have went in there and won that game because Cam Newton was playing terrible throughout the season. Now, I'll give him credit. He played his best game of the season, and he let everybody know after the game, don't talk to me. I don't want to talk to you right now because I just played well. But from the Patriots standpoint, Brady taking a beating is a concern because he has to drop back and throw the football 30 to 40 times for them to win.
No quarterback at 40 or older has ever been sacked 35 times in a season. Sacks became official in 1982. Again, Brady is on pace to be sacked 52 times.
Okay, how many quarterbacks 40 or older have ever played? That's like a little stat there that's kind of, misconstrued a little.
It's not a lot. I mean, off the top of my head, Moon, Favre. If you want to go back to someone like George Blanda, but he wouldn't have played after 1982.
Was Favre over 40 when he played?
Yes, I believe he had 1 or 2 seasons over 40. It's a very small number,
right?
But you're correct. It's a very small number.
Right.
But again, it's a small number of quarterbacks who've played at a number that large of their age, and to be sacked 52 times. Look, it just can't happen. There's just no way. One or the other is going to happen. Either they're going to get the protection situation / the quarterback hit, or he's not going to make it. I mean, it's one or the other. Again, I give them the benefit of the doubt. All right, we are Mike and Mike. I don't think I explained that really well. Let me.
Not just not really well. I don't know if anybody that was listening understood anything that you were saying.
Let me do it again. So the plot of this is, by the way, as the rest of the country joins us, this relates to the fact that the Jets are winning games now, and Booger is actually sending me texts while they're going on, making fun of me because they're winning. I mean, since the beginning of time, people have been texting each other nasty notes when their team loses.
Yes.
I'm the only person who could be getting nasty texts when they win because everyone thinks that they're tanking because they want to get a high draft pick. So I said it's kind of like the classic Mel Brooks movie, The Producers. So what that's about is two guys in the movie. It's Gene Wilder and Ciro Mostel, and they decide they come up with this brilliant scheme. It's illegal, of course, but it's a brilliant scheme that you go to all these investors and say, we're going to put a show on, and you donate some money, invest some money in it. And here, you now own 50% of the rights. You own 50%. You own 50%. These people are going to all claim all this money in profits, which obviously you can't be selling if there are any profits.
Right.
So they then put on what they think is the worst show in the history of shows, with the idea that it will be so bad that no one will ever go see it. It'll close in one day, and they get to keep all the money. That's the plot of the movie.
Right.
Well, that's kind of what's going on with the Jets now. They've put Josh McCown on the field. He's too good to tank. He's too good to be 0-16. And so your point is exactly right. Put Hackenberg in there, and you will be 0-. Well, it's too late for that now. You'll be 2-14, and you'll get the number 1 or 2 or 3 pick in the draft.
Okay, you could have explained it a lot simpler by saying, you know what, this team is trying to tank, but they're actually a little bit better than we thought. So, okay.
I know. I probably could have left it at that. I don't know where. Only I could have turned that into something about a Broadway musical.
A classical musical.
All
like
right.
that.
Let's just move on from that for a moment here. We'll get back to the Too Far Tuesdays and everything else, but don't forget we got baseball tonight. We got the wild card game in the American League, Twins and Yankees at Yankee Stadium. You'll see it on ESPN. You'll hear it on ESPN Radio.
News you didn't even know you needed or even want.
Well, if I was you, I'd do something about it.
These are Mike and Mike's Nerd Notes.
All right, so here we go. We got Nerd Notes for you on Yankees Twins tonight.
Nerd alert!
And it starts with the career or the historical record between these teams. Yankees and Twins have met 14 times in the playoffs, 14 games. The Yankees are 12-2. That's the second best record of any team against a single opponent in the postseason history. The Yankees have outscored the Twins 69-36 in those games.
Nerd alert!
However, in the history of the wild card game, the team that starts the more experienced pitcher has won 8 of the 10 historically. It's a small sample size. They've only been doing it 5 years. The Yankees will start the less experienced Luis Severino against the more experienced Irvin Santana. For what that's worth. All eyes, of course, will be on Aaron Judge, who hit a Yankee record 33 home runs in the Bronx this year. He became the first player since Mickey Mantle in 1958 to lead the American League in runs, home runs, and walks. What does Vegas say?
Nerd alert!
With an eye, of course, on the money line here. The Yankees are minus 230 to win the game tonight. You have to bet $230 to win 100. That makes them the largest favorite in the history of the wild card game, which dates back to 2012. So, Booger, you had this idea that you brought up this morning.
Yes.
That you think that home field advantage should mean more, or the better record should mean more in a one-game playoff scenario than just home field. The Yankees had a 6-game better record, so you believe the Twins should have to win an extra game.
Yeah, I think when you look at this situation, it's an unfair advantage if you're the better team. They give you home field, but when you've been the better team all year, you should get an advantage and only have to win 1 game. However, if you're the Twins, you're the worst team. Not only should you go on the road, but you should have to win 2 games. I don't like the idea of a 1-game winner-take-all wild card situation, especially for the Yankees, because the one thing about these Yankees, especially with Joe Girardi managing, Joe Girardi gets a little tight and a little nervous in some of these big games. He's got one of the best pitchers in baseball tonight. And not to get too baseball-y right here, but it'll be very, very key. How does Joe Girardi handle Severino tonight? Because I think he's probably 3rd, 4th, 5th best pitcher in baseball, somewhere in there, depending on how you look at his stuff is outstanding. Slider change, fastball is electric. Let him pitch. They should have an advantage tonight, not just a 1-game series in the boogie down. They should be able to say, you know what? We have the luxury, since we were the better team, we can have 2 games to win 1. If you're the Twins, you need 2 games to win 2.
So that's hashtag Too Far Tuesday for me. We're going to come up against the end of the hour here, so we'll talk about this off the top. I do like the idea of increasing the advantage. To me, that would be going a little bit too far. Personally, I have a love-hate relationship with the second wild card, and I've talked about it over the years, both with Bud and with Manfred, and we'll do that as we continue. Much more to go as we roll on. Just getting started on a Tuesday. Mike and Mike. Be right back.
Okay, Kevin, for the grand prize of $1 million. What color is the White House?
I know this.
5 seconds.
Oh, switching to Geico could save you a bunch of money on car insurance?
Okay. Judges? That's true, Kevin. They'll allow it. Congratulations. You're a winner.
Woo! Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
Blue Apron is the #1 fresh ingredient and recipe delivery service in the country. I enjoy how easy the meals are to make and the variety to choose from, and of course, how amazing the meals taste. For less than $10 per person per meal, Blue Apron delivers seasonal recipes along with pre-portioned ingredients to make delicious home-cooked meals. You can choose from a variety of new recipes each week, like meatball pizza with fresh mozzarella cheese and charmed tomatoes, or let Blue Apron's culinary team surprise you. Recipes are not repeated within a year, so you're never going to get bored. Customize your recipes each week based on your preferences. Blue Apron has several delivery options, so you can choose what fits your needs, and there's no weekly commitment, so you only get deliveries when you want them. Each meal comes with a step-by-step, easy-to-follow recipe and pre-portioned ingredients and can be prepared in about 40 minutes or less. Blue Apron's freshness guarantee promises that every ingredient in your delivery arrives ready to cook, or they'll make it right. Check out this week's menu and get your first 3 meals free with free shipping by going to blueapron.com/Mike and Mike. You're going to love how good it feels and tastes to create incredible home-cooked meals with Blue Apron, so do not wait. That's blueapron.com/Mike and Mike. Blue Apron, it's a better way to cook.
This weekend, win on the field and at home with amazing deals on bouquets from 1-800-Flowers.com. Right now, when you order a dozen multicolored roses for $29.99, you'll get an extra bouquet for free. How awesome is that? Go to 1-800-Flowers.com/Mike.
Oh, yeah, we'll get to that. We got some LeVar Ball coming for you. I'm not sure if that's a promise or a warning.
Yeah, it's a warning.
Depending on how you take it, but we got that coming up. We got Booger McFarland here. We're Mike and Mike, presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line tomorrow in this hour. Don't forget, back-to-back, John Gruden and Kirk Herbstreit. Every Wednesday, Gruden and Herbie in this hour, the 7 o'clock hour Eastern time, hour number 2 for us. So always enjoyable. My buddy Mitch Truitt is listening, and he sent me a note. Said, you are for sure the only morning show host in the world and perhaps ever who could invoke Zero Mostel and a Jets analogy. Be careful going to the cafeteria after the show. There is a 50% chance someone is going to take your lunch money. And he's right, and you were right as well. That was poorly handled by me. I should have come up with practically any other analogy besides the producers.
Yeah, well, listen, first of all, 99% of the people listening have no idea who the producers or what the producers are. I didn't.
That's an exaggeration.
Well,
I believe more than 1% of the people have heard of the movie The Producers.
First of all, I didn't know it was a movie. I thought it was a play.
It started out as a movie. It was a classic Mel Brooks movie.
Classic may be a stretch.
It was a classic.
Okay. It was
I don't know how. If there's an official definition of classic, I believe that it is one. But go ahead.
Well, you could have made the analogy so much more simple.
You're correct.
By just saying, hey, you know what? They're trying to be bad. They're actually good. Maybe they're not good at being bad at all, and just left it at that.
Right. They're very bad at being bad. They were bad. Here's the problem with my life with the Jets. They were bad at being good, and now they're bad at being bad.
Exactly.
We can figure out something they're good at, then I'll probably be in a much better mood, all things considered. Let's finish up the conversation we were having before the end of the previous hour. We'll get Timmy Kurkjian and coming up in about a half hour here, looking ahead to the Yankees and Twins tonight, which, again, you'll see on ESPN, and you'll hear it right here on ESPN Radio. And I have a love-hate relationship with the one-game second wild card. First and foremost, I love what it has done for the regular season. Adding the second wild card, I think, was absolutely brilliant for the regular season. It has created a significance to winning the division.
Correct.
There was a time when the difference between the Red Sox and the Yankees, for example, going into this postseason would have been basically nothing.
Right.
The difference between winning the division and being the wild card was practically nothing, and I didn't like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I love the idea that it has put a premium on winning the division. There is a distinct disadvantage for both the Yankees and Twins going into these playoffs versus the rest of the teams in the American League, and the same, of course, in the NL as well. So I love that. And of course, look, for TV's sake, I mean, we've got it on ESPN tonight, and tomorrow is Turner, right? Has the National League game, or Fox? Is it Turner or Fox? Turner has it. Whoever has it. Doesn't make any this has nothing to do with the fact that we have the game tonight. But obviously, there's something incredibly exciting about a one-game winner-take-all scenario. That speaks for itself. That said, the notion of settling something this significant in one game doesn't sit well. Exactly. It just doesn't feel right. So what I would do, if you made me the king of the world or the commissioner of baseball, is I would make it a best of three. And if you wanted to satisfy your idea of giving home field bigger advantage, just play them all in the park of the team with the better record. So you don't have travel in there, so you can get through it relatively quickly. Make it a quick best of three and give home field advantage to the team with the better record. Now, that would serve a lot of it would create a lot of unnecessary or unforeseen negative consequences.
Yes.
The teams that are sitting and waiting don't want to sit and wait that long. They get out of their rhythm, they get out of their routine. They don't want that. It actually would in some ways wind up not serving the purpose that we want it to serve.
Yeah, I think 3 games would be too many. That's the reason I say keep it at 2, because 3 games, let's say it goes 3 games. So now the team that wins that 3-game series, if it has to go 3, now your pitching rotation is all out of whack.
Now, which it is a little bit already, but you're right. It would take it even further. So, again, to be clear, you're saying make the team with the lesser record have to win twice.
Twice. And the team that has the best record, if you win 1 game, it's done, over with, move on. If you're the team in the wild card with the lesser record, you have to win 2 games. Give the team that had the better regular season. Because here's the thing about it. What do we always say about baseball? It's game 57 of 162. Well, make the 162 mean just a little bit more. And this is another way you can make the games mean a little bit more in this situation. So I like this idea. I stole it. I'm going to be clearly honest about that, but it's mine now, and so I think we should go with it. Because mine is better than yours.
It's growing on me. The more I'm listening to you, the more it's growing on me. In spite of myself, I'm actually kind of starting to like it a little bit. We'll continue thinking it over as we bring our buddy Tom Waddle into the conversation here. Tommy, you hear him every afternoon in Chicago on ESPN 1000, Waddle and Sylvie, and of course you've heard him for years on our show and all the other shows here on ESPN. Good morning, Tom Waddle.
Good morning, guys. I'm getting some good information as well. We have the baseball commissioner, Rob Manfred, on our show this afternoon. Now I'm going to have some material for him. Thank you.
I like that. And, the Cubs were in this game 2 years ago, obviously, so you guys went through this, and your partner there, Sylvie, is the crazy Cub fan, as so many people in Chicago are. Obviously, we want to talk to you about Mitch Trubisky, but just quickly, what do you think of that? The one-game play-in scenario, Booger is saying, and you got it from Rossi, right?
Yeah,
he took it from your guy Rossi, that if you want to make it a little better for the team with the better record, then make the road team or the lesser record team have to win twice in this round. What do you think of it?
I'd never heard it, so I'm going to have to sleep on it, but I kind of like it. I've always thought baseball was a game of series, so playing just one game to advance after 162 regular season games always seemed a little odd to me, but I do understand the scheduling conflict that it would cause to make the wild card a 3-game series. So Booger's got a very good idea, stolen idea, but a good idea that I think I'm going to have to sleep on a touch.
Nobody steals an idea like Booger McFarland. You can trademark that. Timmy Kurkjian, will bounce it off him in about 25 minutes, and we'll get his reaction. Meanwhile, Tommy Waddle, we wanted to talk to you about the quarterback change. So first, let's get 2 separate takes from you. The first is let's hear the reaction. I was on your show a couple of weeks ago. You weren't there that day, but I was on with the guys, and I know that everyone has been screaming and yelling in Chicago for this because the Bears have looked basically terrible, and Glennon has looked no better than anyone was hoping, and maybe even worse. So what were you hearing in phone calls yesterday on your show from Bears fans?
Well, I think it gives people some hope. Look, I would caution people starting a rookie quarterback, despite what you've seen from Deshaun Watson, who's got a better cast around him than Mitchell Trubisky will have around him in Chicago. There will be bumps. It's going to be a roller coaster ride. But with that said, I think it's given people hope. And they're getting a glimpse of the future. And I think people realize all along this isn't a playoff caliber team, but it's a team that's been desperately in search of a quarterback answer for an extended period of time. So I think what everyone is looking forward to starting next Monday night is an opportunity to look at the future of this franchise. So there is some excitement. I do believe he will raise the level of play of several of the guys around him. I do believe there will be some mistakes, but we feel like we have some hope here in Chicago now, guys.
Tom, why not make this move at the beginning of the season and just go with it? I know people in Houston are saying Deshaun Watson should have started week one, and I think Greeny and I both agree with that. If you're a Chicago Bear fan, why not do this at the beginning of the year, since this is a season, by and large, there was really no chance for the Bears to be a playoff team anyway?
I think it's a good question. I think the answer that you would get from the Bears front office and from the coaching staff is if you look at the two quarterbacks, Deshaun Watson, as you know, Booger, better than anybody, was a 3-year starter at Clemson and played on the biggest stage and under the brightest lights and excelled and maybe was more ready to play sooner than Mitchell Trubisky. Mitchell had one season at North Carolina, and I think the plan all along was to be very patient with him, bring in Mike Glennon, allow him to kind of hold the seat of Mitch Trubisky for a while and let Mitchell sit back and watch and learn and then ultimately take over. But the fact that Mike Glennon wasn't able to manage games, which is what he was brought here to do, and it was actually the reason why they were losing games, I think it speeds up the plan for sure.
Was he? I mean, so you watch every snap of every game closely. How would you evaluate what you saw from Mike Glennon, who was probably now taken, I would assume, if Trubisky stays healthy? Glennon has taken his last snap as a Chicago Bear, so his future becomes, I guess, interesting, certainly to him and maybe to some other teams. How would you evaluate what we saw from Glennon in 4 games?
I would say that the word that comes to mind, Greeny, is unacceptable. Look, I know the team liked Mike Glennon. They voted him a captain. I think that everyone felt he was a good leader. But at the end of the day, you're playing the most important and most difficult position in all of professional sports, and you've been brought here to take care of the football. He turned it over 8 times, 7 times in the 2 games where they never really competed against the Packers and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So you just can't live with a game manager who's not managing the game. And it wasn't all Mike Glennon's fault. He doesn't have a ton of talent around him inside that offensive huddle, but he did have his hand in a lot of the big mistakes that occurred and really took them out of games. So, look, I thought I didn't evaluate him correctly because I didn't think Mike Glennon's ceiling was enormously high, but I didn't expect the floor to be this low. I thought he would be significantly better than he's been in a short period of time here.
Tom, how does this affect John Fox? Because now you go to the rookie quarterback. Does this buy John Fox a little bit more time, or is he still going to be at the hot seat regardless of how this season ends?
Well, I believe they're 4-16 the last 20 games. So over the last year and a half, last year was a big step backward for them as they were 3-13. There really was not the improvement they were looking for in the second year of the staff. I think the eye test is more important really than the record. Again, if you're 3-13, there's going to be a coaching change. If they're a 6-10 team or they're a 7-9 team and Mitch gives them a spark, and it looks like Dowell Loggins is helping develop Mitchell Trubisky, I think you'll see this coaching staff back again next year. But Mitchell Trubisky isn't their best player, obviously. He's never taken a regular season snap, but he's their most important player. And his development is the most important thing about this organization going forward. So if they see that he's being developed appropriately over the next 12 games, then I do believe the coaching staff will be back.
My last thought, Tom Waddle is with us from Chicago on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, where Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance. Is this a move that's being made out of desperation because they look so bad on national TV on a Thursday night and because the coach knows that he's coaching for his job? Or is this a move that is being made because the kid has shown himself to be ready, that something has happened in these last 4 weeks that said he wasn't ready on September 1st, but he is ready on October 1st?
The answer is yes to all of it. I think that think they're impressed with what they've seen from Mitchell. I don't think they thought initially he was going to be as far along as he is. He played exceptionally well in the preseason. I think that you talk to people around the organization, they're very happy with how he's progressed even in practice. I think he's more ready now than he was before. I don't know that a rookie quarterback's ever ready, There will be mistakes, but I think they're more comfortable now turning things over to him than they would have been at the start of the season. And it's a necessity now as well because Mike Glennon just hasn't taken care of the football. And listen, we're all human beings, and John Fox has got a nice resume as a head coach in this league. I believe this is his 16th year as a head coach in the league. He's taken 2 teams to Super Bowls, but you are what your record says you are, and they're 4-16 their last 20 games. So John knows he needs to give this organization a spark and win some games.
And finally, Tom, your thoughts on the 2-game suspension of Danny Trevathan. I thought 2 games was a bit much. Finally, quite frankly, to me, 1 game would have been a bit much. A personal foul call, yes. But to me, they're going overboard with the suspension. Your thoughts?
I thought it happened about the way I thought it would. Danny's not a dirty player. I don't believe it's difficult to determine intent. I don't believe the intent was to hurt. Danny never left his feet. It was unfortunate because Davante Adams' head was coming down as Danny came in to finish the tackle. My guess was because of the nature of the hit and why it happened on national television, they would probably give him a 2-game suspension. I would be very surprised if they didn't. They have appealed it if they don't bring it down to just 1 game. I think because of the initiative to get the helmet-to-helmet contact out of the game, I understand why they did it. Again, I'm more of an intent guy, and I don't believe Danny Trevathan's intent ever on the field is to maim somebody. So I think it'll be appealed down to 1 game, and they'll move forward.
All right, Tom Waddle's got Rob Manfred on the show this afternoon, ESPN 1000. If you're in Chicago, make sure you're listening. Thanks, Tommy. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, Tom.
All right, guys. Have a good day.
It's Tommy Waddle with us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance line, taking synthetic motor oil performance to a whole new level. Make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics today. Let's expand on that briefly. Your thoughts on that hit, because what I think a lot of people see is what looks like an unnecessary play. The runner looks stopped. He comes in. He's about the 3rd or 4th guy hitting him, puts his head straight down. I mean, if there's one conversation we've had more than any other over the last 2 years, I can hear Mike Golick saying it in my sleep at this point. Make sure you see what you hit. Trevathan is looking straight down at the ground and hits him with the crown of his helmet directly in the face mask. If that's not a dirty play and it's not actionable, then what is?
Greeny, it's not dirty. It's a football play that when 2 people are moving at high speed like that, things are going to happen from the standpoint. To me, Danny Trevathan is trying to come in. He's trying to lower his shoulder because he realizes he can't hit with his head. He's trying to lower his shoulder and move his head out of the way. And the receiver, who's being turned by 3 or 4 defenders, his head gets lowered. Now you have helmet-to-helmet contact. To me, the NFL isn't trying to legislate head-to-head contact out of football. What they're trying to do is legislate the optics out of it. Because if you're really trying to do it, offensive and defensive linemen have head-to-head contact every single play. But nobody really watches that. We're only watching the football. We're only watching when the receiver catches it and there's a huge hit. That's what we're watching. We're only watching when the quarterback gets hit on the sideline and there's a huge hit. So they're trying to legislate the optics or the perception that football is safer. There is no head-to-head or helmet-to-helmet contact. There's helmet-to-helmet contact with offensive and defensive linemen, with fullbacks and linebackers every single play. So I think it's a little hypocritical of the NFL to do that, especially to suspend the guy. If you want to throw a flag for unnecessary roughness, fine. Be my guest, do that. But do not suspend the guy for something that's been done for a long time. And just because it's been done for a long time doesn't make it right. But you have to understand the angles of football and how it looks and not just react to the optics and how people react and how social media is going crazy. And if this is not a hit, what is? It's football. You're going to have – it's the reason they wear helmets, put it like that. You're going to have that.
I understand what you're saying. And I understand that what you're telling me is that he didn't mean to do it. Tom Waddle just said intent. But we can't legislate intent. Things happen on a football field so fast and so many. I can't sit here and tell you what he was or wasn't trying to do. I can tell you what happened. I can tell you that he put the crown of his helmet directly into the face mask of Davante Adams. That's what happened. Whatever his intent was, I don't know. But that's what wound up happening. And the only reasonable way I think you can officiate this stuff is to – at the end of the day, when I accept that intent is impossible to determine at all times, then I get why they would say, you know what, at the end of the day, I just have to legislate based upon what happened. He hit him with the crown of his helmet.
Make it fair then. Make it fair. Make it fair when a running back is running the ball and he lowers the crown of his helmet as a corner or a linebacker.
Right.
Make it fair. Don't make it so one-sided, because right now it's one-sided when the guy who's not looking is hit by a defender who's coming in with the crown of his helmet. Everybody goes crazy. But when the running back has the football and he's coming around the corner and there's a linebacker or a safety coming, and the first thing he does is lower his head, what's that? He's using the crown of his helmet as a weapon. It's not fair from a defensive standpoint that the defenders are getting penalized for football plays just because of the optics and because of the perception that people see, when everybody else, from fullbacks, running backs, they do it all the time. Watch the number of fullbacks and running backs that lower their helmet when coming and being opposed by a defender. It happens all the time. But because of the perception that the National Football League wants to put off, hey, this game is so much safer. Listen, man, football is a collision sport. There's only so much safety you can have in it. And I think from an optical standpoint and a perception standpoint, we want this game perceived to be safer and better, and it's never going to be that.
I hear what you're saying. The other thing I hear is this is now suddenly turned into I play defense, and I'm upset with all these rules that are penalizing the defense guys instead of the offense guys.
I can see how it comes across like that.
When the running back puts his helmet down, the defensive guy has plenty of opportunity to see it and to react to it. He's not defenseless in any way. He's actually playing defense. The offense guy, you can't be defenseless when you're playing defense. Those two things don't work together. You can be defenseless when you're on offense.
But it doesn't change the fact
Adams has no control in that moment when three guys are holding on to him over where his helmet is going to wind up. He's falling down because three people are tackling him.
Understood. But if you're a defender and you're coming, and at the last minute the running back lowers his head, I mean, essentially you're in the same position.
But that wouldn't be a penalty. The defensive player isn't going to get a penalty for hitting that guy in the head.
And neither is the offensive guy. That's my point. The offensive guy is doing exactly the same thing that the defensive guy does when it comes to lowering his helmet and using the helmet, the crown of the helmet, as a weapon. I would love to know what's the difference right there.
I understand I think there's a difference. I understand what you're saying, but so the offensive line and the defensive line, you guys play defensive line all your career,
yes.
Right? Are your helmets actually colliding on every snap of every play? Not really, right? You're lined up on someone's shoulder.
A lot, Greeny. A lot. I mean, a lot.
But
I wouldn't say every play, but it's a lot.
But you're only coming from, a foot away from each other as opposed to someone is running and coming at a large. See, that's what I don't know. That's why so much of this stuff has to be studied and understood. And I think that there is a natural contradiction in what you necessarily want to know.
Right.
If you have to take that out, okay, if that is going to cause a lot of problems later in life, those just then football doesn't work.
Right.
You just can't play football anymore.
Correct.
Right? You can take what Danny Trevathan did out of the game. You can't take you against who's a guy you would have played against a million times. No one is jumping to mind. Larry Allen. Oh, my goodness.
That's a bad example.
That had to be brutal. Larry Allen, who could have bench pressed you, but you're playing against Larry Allen. You guys, if your helmet is hitting each other 60 times in a game, that can't be taken out.
Correct.
So if that is going to cause problems, if you can't have that, then you can't have football anymore, right?
I agree with that. The only point I'm making is you have to make some fairness of this helmet-to-helmet contact, especially when you have running backs who are power backs, Marshawn Lynch, Eddie Lacy, big back Zeke Elliott. When they come around that corner, Greeny, they're not looking and saying, hey, let me turn my shoulder, hit this. They're taking the crown of their helmet, and they're looking at that DB and say, yeah, little fella, come here. And they're plowing into him. At some point, where's the fairness of that?
So should that be a foul? Should they take that out of football?
They should take the fact that a running back can use the crown of his helmet as a weapon. If the helmet is the issue, understand this. I hear what you're saying about defenseless player.
Yeah.
Let's just take a look at the helmet as a weapon and spearing and all that good stuff, because the head is the central part of this.
Right.
If you can use the helmet as an offender, as an offensive guy, from a defensive standpoint, it just seems a little unfair, man, that you're letting the offensive guy just kind of spear you and knock you out.
Okay.
Ask any corner out there. They would feel the same way.
I'm willing to listen to that conversation. Part of me is only hearing, I played defense all these years, and this isn't
that's
fair
because
to the
that's what you want to hear. That's all you want to hear.
But there's another part of me that says I'm at least willing to hear you out.
Home isn't just a place. It's a feeling that you're safe to enjoy the things that matter most. ADT lets you take that feeling with you, whether you're at home, your business, or online. We help keep you safe with security systems, home automation, alarms, and surveillance, so you can feel at home wherever you are. Go to ADT.com to get that feeling for less than $1 a day. ADT. Home, safe home.
Okay, Kevin, for the grand prize of $1 million, what color is the White House?
I know this.
5 seconds.
Oh, switching to Geico could save you a bunch of money on car insurance?
Okay. Judges? That's true, Kevin. They'll allow it. Congratulations. You're a winner.
Woo! Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
Tim Kurkjian joins us live from the Bronx to preview tonight's wild card game between the Yankees and the Twins. Good morning, Tim Kurkjian.
How are you, Greeny? Hi, Booger.
Hello, Tim.
Always a pleasure. And let's start with this. Booger has this crazy idea that he stole from your buddy David Ross there, where I like the wild card game, the second wild card that they added for what it does to the regular season. I love the increased emphasis on winning the division. However, there's something that just feels so difficult about a one-game series after a 162-game season. And so Booger, who will steal an idea with the best of them, stole one from Rossi where he said, make the team that has the lesser record have to win twice. Thus, if the Yankees were to win tonight, it's over. If the Twins were to win tonight, they'd have to win a second game. At first, I hated it. Starting to grow on me. What do you think of it?
I don't think too much of that. Sorry, Booger. Here's the problem with the wild card game. If you go more than one game here, then you're taking a team that won a division, let's say, and now they have to wait even longer before they play their first game. And the key here is this is baseball. It's a daily game. And when you play the game every day during the regular season, basically, and then you get almost a week off in some cases before the playoffs start, that's not good for a baseball team to do that. So the best way to do the wild card game is to play one game and then start the division series right after that, because Mike Scioscia told me a few years ago, he said, we've had more off days in the postseason than we had during the regular season. And even though that was only a slight exaggeration, the point is well made.
Tim, one of the knocks on Joe Girardi is that he gets a little tight in these playoff situations. He's got a young pitcher in Severino who's got some electric stuff. How long is he going to let Severino go tonight? And do you think Joe Girardi gets tight in these pressure-packed playoff situations?
Well, first off, Joe Girardi is a great manager, not a good manager. And the way he's gotten this team into the playoffs and kept them relevant over the last few years is truly amazing. And yes, he's had a quick hook with some of his pitchers recently, but I would say anyone would have a quick hook when you got those guys coming out of the bullpen. He's got 6, 7, 8 different guys that can come out of that bullpen and strike out the side. That's how good that bullpen is. However, Luis Severino is really good. And after Corey Kluber and Chris Sale, he's been the best starting pitcher in the American League this year. And if he is dealing, as he could be tonight, Joe Girardi is not going to get him. But at the first sign of trouble, he might, because he's got horses, start with Chad Green, lined up that he can bring in. And nobody has a stable of hard throwers quite like Girardi does in that bullpen.
How early, Tim, how early in a tie game does he get tempted to do that? If it's the 5th inning tonight in a scoreless game and it's 2nd and 3rd, is he tempted to do that?
Well, it's possible, but let's also consider that Severino, for the most part, has gotten better as the game goes along. He has thrown more pitches from the 7th inning on at 100 miles an hour or greater than all the other starting pitchers in the major leagues combined this year. So he's not one of those guys who really good the first time through, struggles the second time, really struggles the third. That's not his MO. He's still throwing really hard late in the game. So I don't see them going to the bullpen unless they see significant issues from Severino in, say, the 5th inning. And I don't think that's going to happen. This kid is really good.
And Tim, put into context what the Twins have done this season. They were going to be buyers. They turned to sellers. You got this young, explosive outfield. The offense is picked up late. Just put into context what the Twins have done to get to this point.
Well, Booger, what they've done is basically unprecedented. As you know, no team has ever gone from 100 losses to the playoffs. They went from 103 losses to the playoffs. And don't forget, in the beginning of August, they were 4 games under 500. They've been outscored for the season, and then they made this remarkable run here. They're the highest scoring team in Major League Baseball since August the 5th. They've hit more homers than any team in baseball starting August the 8th. And they've done all of this with a great defense, and that was how this all turned around. Paul Molitor, the manager, the most fundamentally sound player that I think I ever ran across, basically told his team in spring training, we were terrible defensively last year. That is 2016, and that ends now. And they made a great emphasis on defense every day of this season. Their defense got demonstrably better, and their outfield defense is phenomenal. They have 3 center fielders playing outfield on an everyday basis for them, and Byron Buxton, their everyday center fielder, my goodness, watching him go left to right, streaking through the outfield, that is truly breathtaking to watch.
All right, Timmy Kurkjian is there again in the Bronx tonight, 8 o'clock Eastern time for the Yankees and the Twins, the American League Wild Card. You'll see it on ESPN. You'll hear it right here on ESPN Radio. Thank you, Timmy. Enjoy the evening.
Thank you.
Tim Kurkjian with us here getting set for the game tonight. Looking forward to that. Yeah, the Twins are surprised. Obviously, they lost 103 games a year ago. They were under 500, as you heard Tim say at the beginning of August. The Yankees are a team that at the trade deadline, they added a bunch of pieces. They made a real run at Boston. They didn't get there. It'll all wind up having been very worth it if they win tonight and get themselves into the actual field, and it will not have been worth it if they don't win tonight. It's as simple as that.
Well, the Twins are a huge underdog, Greeny. If you look at where their season is and where it started, like at a certain point, they said, you know what, we're going to be buyers. We're going to make some moves. We're going to get some guys in here. Then all of a sudden, overnight, they say, you know what, we're going to be sellers. And so they started getting rid of parts, getting rid of pieces. And this team galvanized and got together and said, you know what, nobody gives us a chance to win. Nobody thinks we can do this. And it's amazing when they turn their attention to defense. He talked about those 3 center fielders playing outfield. Their defense has been outstanding. The home run has been their big key. The key tonight, though, will be Irvin Santana. Irvin Santana has pitched terrible in the new Yankee Stadium. What does he pitch like? He's been very good this year, just bad in that stadium. How he pitches tonight will go a long way to determining how long they can stay into this game.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I love Girardi. I think he is a great everyday manager. Yep. I do agree that he sometimes gets tight in games like this, and I think that sometimes the team takes that personality on as well. We've seen it historically. It just is what it is. And so if he does try to make a quick move tonight, I think that will be interesting. I gave a bad example because scoreless is one thing. If the game's 2-2, 2/3 in second and third, and 1 out in the 5th inning, is he tempted to make a move?
Yeah, because he's got horses in the bullpen. Now, if it's early, a better example would be, let's say it's in the 3rd or 4th inning, because now you're in that gray area.
Right.
If he gets to the 5th inning, he can take it from the 5th. The 3rd or 4th inning is a better.
All right, well, he's talking about Severino throwing all these 100-mile-an-hour pitches in the 7th inning. I think it's an upset if he sees the 7th inning tonight. Let me get a couple of quick takes from you on the National Football League here. Just a couple of real fast ones as we run through all the big news of the day. David Carr out 2 to 6 weeks. If it's 2 weeks, obviously they can withstand that. If Carr misses more than a month, do the Raiders miss the playoffs as a result?
Well, Derek Carr, in my opinion, is one of the best young quarterbacks in football. If he misses that much time, they're going to struggle. I think, though, it gives them an opportunity to get back to who they were, which is a physical football team. If you want to talk about an offensive line, then use the offensive line. This offensive line has gotten too pass-heavy, which is why they got pushed around in Washington. Offensive linemen by nature, Greeny, want to go north-south. They don't want to back up. So do I think they can survive and stay above water? Yes, if they run the football. E.J. Manuel is a quarterback. You talk about that line, he's below that line, Greeny. He's way below that line. So they're going to have to lean on the running game to be a viable team while Derek Carr is hurt.
6 weeks, they can stay in the playoff race. Manuel can win them half their games in 6 weeks?
The running game and the defense can do that. Manuel can't. Manuel is not that he's not that guy.
Next quick take, Dalvin Cook out for the season. Obviously, he was not the Vikings' only running back, but he had really given them a spark, and they're playing so much time now without the quarterback, and who knows what's going on with that. Are the Vikings falling out of it?
I think that's going to eventually hurt him because not only is Dalvin Cook hurt, Sam Bradford isn't playing right now. And as much as you talk about quarterbacks that are above or below the line, Sam Bradford is above the line. He has a huge arm. He has a high completion percentage. He can get the football to the weapons. Diggs, Rudolph, those guys can make plays. Nothing against Case Keenum, but he's a guy who I'm not going to say can win you games consecutive week after week after week. You need some balance. The running game, and Dalvin Cook was so explosive. My goodness. I mean, to me, he was right up there with Kareem Hunt, Watson. He was going to be in the Rookie of the Year conversation. I think this eventually puts Minnesota in a position that they can't recover from.
And in a word, are the Bears making the right or wrong decision by going to Trubisky right now?
Wrong.
Because?
Well, you asked me for one word.
I understand that. I shouldn't have. You know what? I put you in a box there, and that was my fault.
I can listen.
I apologize.
You said one word.
Listen, and you listened to me, which is a delightful change here. But that said, I'd like a tiny bit more from you on that.
Okay, it's the wrong move because I don't think he's ready. And I think you're putting him in there, to your question that you asked Tom Waddle, I think you're putting him in there because of what's going on in Houston and because of public sentiment. I don't think he's done anything in practice the last 4 weeks that he hasn't done in training camp. So why are you putting him in now? I understand if you're saying, hey, our plan was to put him in week 8. Well, keep the plan. Let Mike Glennon play. You're not going into the playoffs anyway. Make sure that you're sure that this young kid is ready to go because you're never going to get a second chance for this first opportunity that he gets to make an impact on your football team.
That is the most right thing you've said all day. And a day filled with right things, I totally agree. If he's not really ready and they're going to this move for other reasons like desperation, in my opinion, it's a huge mistake. We'll take a short break. We come back with one school that has to make one huge and fascinating decision. You'll hear what it is right after this. Mike and Mike. Again, some of the Twitter on Booger's idea of changing around the baseball playoffs. Other ideas, like Nicholas tweets at us, all this safety concern in the NFL, but they still let a pile push a runner an extra 5 yards. Hashtag forward momentum, hashtag blow the whistle. Agree or disagree with that concept?
Well, I think I agree with that because it's up to the referee to blow the whistle for forward progress. And normally what happens is you get the offensive lineman running in, especially near the goal line or the first down mark. You're trying to push your guy over.
Are you okay with that?
Yeah, I'm okay with that because the defensive guys do it also. They try to push the guys back. So I'm okay because both sides are doing it. I like fairness.
Well, but the point is when a guy like Trevathan comes in with a big hit like that after the play is quote-unquote over, it leads to a 2-game suspension. I get it. Offensive linemen aren't coming in there and smashing someone in the face with their helmet.
We had a rule in Tampa, and you'll love this based on our wiggle conversation.
Yeah.
If it's wiggling, hit it. That was our rule. Rod Marinelli, Monty Kiffin had a rule. If it's wiggling, hit it. If the ball carrier if something is moving, whatever's moving, you hit it. That's why our defense was physical. It was nasty because, and if you look around the league and you talk to people feared our defense, not because we were big. Like I was the biggest guy at 300 pounds. Okay. We were small, we were fast, and we would hit you. Prime example, Derek Brooks in the first play of the, I want to say it was the NFC Championship game in 1999. Torrey Holt runs a slant, he breaks his ribs. Okay, first play of the game, he's spitting up blood.
Brooks broke Holt's ribs.
If it's wiggling, we'll hit it. And so going back to the needing wiggle room and this NFL thing, if it's moving Greeny and you're a defender, we're taught to hit it, big fella. And so when you see Danny Trevathan hitting that, because what's to say that he's not going to break that tackle? So I think the NFL has to keep things in perspective, and hopefully that the guys on 345 Park Avenue who play football can tell the people, listen, this is how the game is played. Like, that's the only thing we want. Football is not played in a series of papers where you say, hey, here's the rule. It has to be looked at on film, looked at on tape to understand the situations. You can't play it in a vacuum on a piece of paper in a booklet. You just can't do it.
Now, if only your best friend was the one who was actually going to make the decision on the Trevathan suspension, but that's exactly what's happening. Derek Brooks, who once made Torrey Holt spit up blood, is the hearing officer for today's appeal from Trevathan on his 2-game suspension, according to our Adam Schefter.
Yes.
You know Brooks better than anybody. You guys play golf together all the time. He takes your money day after day, week after week on the many beautiful golf courses in the Tampa, Florida area. And you're telling me you believe he will reduce the suspension from 2 games to 1.
Here's what I know. Derek Brooks is fair. Okay, he's not lenient. He's fair. He's played 13 or 14 years in this league. He's a Hall of Famer, a Super Bowl champion. He understands the game. I think the first thing he'll look at is to see if there's a history. Does Danny Trevathan have a history of dirty play, a history of illegal hits, a history of personal fouls? If he doesn't, then he'll talk to Danny and be like, okay, tell me what you saw. Explain it to me. Because how this works in a hearing is The lawyer or the representative of Danny can call in. Danny can call if he wants to, and you're on the phone with Brooks, and you guys can essentially watch the play together with all this technology. And he wants to know what you were thinking. Tell me what you saw. And it's at 2 games right now. And if Brooks believes or has an idea of what they're saying is true based on the facts, then there's a chance he could reduce it. Now, in my opinion, haven't talked to him, don't know, just found out this morning that he was the hearing officer. I think he'll reduce it to 1 game. I don't think he'll rescind it all the way, but I do think based on what I know, fairness, intent and all that, this will wind up being a 1-game suspension. Can
I ask you a question?
Sure.
And this might sound like I'm being facetious, but I'm really not. You're saying he's going to want to ask Trevathan what he was thinking. Does he have time to think? Like in that situation, Trevathan is running as fast as he can to this play because he doesn't know that by the time he gets there, the running back is going to be moving, or the receiver in this case is going to be moving backwards. Do you have, as I feel like you guys practice as much as you do so that when you're actually on the field, you were just instinctually reacting and you're not really thinking. Mm-hmm. Does he have time to think? Like, if you say, what were you thinking about, can he answer that question?
Yeah, because here's what he'll say. He was like, I saw the ball carrier not down as I'm flying to the pile, and I'm trying to get a piece of it. So that's what he was thinking. He's trying to get a piece. Once again, if it's wiggling, hit it. And that's what he's thinking. And so I think when he asked him that question, he just wants to know what his intent was. Are you going in there? Is there a past history between you and this guy? Are you trying to harm him for one reason or the other? Or are you just trying to go in there and light him up and make him remember the name Danny Trevathan? All these are things that Brooks is going to want to know.
And I will say this. Next year, when I have a fantasy football team, that's going to be the name. If it's wiggling, hit it. A man who lived his life by that motto is Ryan Clark. He's on his way in studio as well. Stay there, Mike and Mike.
Okay, keep your eyes closed.
Okay.
I want to show you my first ever painting.
All right.
Okay. Open your eyes.
Oh, that's a lot of colors and shades.
So be honest. What do you think?
Well, I like how if you switch to Geico, you could save hundreds of dollars on car insurance.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Here, why don't I hold your paintbrush while you call them?
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance